Hello everyone, my name is Prodesilaos, also known as Prot. I have been doing some carpentry work here and I realized that I could actually record a video. What I am doing now is trying to construct a bar, a tall table, out of cheap materials that I have over here. This is one part of a wooden pallet and this is the other. I got this for free. These are cheap materials that you will find in construction sites. I have lots of friends working in construction and I get those things very easily. So the idea is that I cut this in half and now I want to use those two halves as the legs of the bar. And here I will put one of those two let me show you. One of those two white planks. One is here and the other is there. One of them will be used as the table top and the other one will be placed on the sides of these legs to provide a support structure, meaning that it will be placed horizontally, you know, this sort of thing, like this. Okay, this is the idea, and all I have to do this is these materials and then just my screwdriver and of course the screws. So let me continue with what I have been doing. What I did was to measure the total length of this one and then find the midpoint and of course apply the cut there. No worries about that. These things over here, they are compressed wood. On the inside it looks like, you know, carton. It looks like paper, but it's very sturdy. It's not a problem. It's for the interior anyway. These I got from my neighbor, these white ones, and they used to be the doors of a wardrobe, and my neighbor was like, if you ever build one you can use them there. And I was like, don't worry, I have a better idea. So I will use them for my bar instead. So let's get to work. Of course I am calling it a bar, but I don't want to give the impression that this is for alcoholic beverages. This is just a surface, a tall surface for me in my hut. I have personally quit drinking alcohol. It's been many years now. I have nothing against alcohol. I am not against it per se, but I think that it also isn't something that will improve you. It is good when you are with the right company and if you are drinking it in moderation, but if you are just there drinking, that's not healthy. That will be to your detriment. Anyhow, that's not the point of what I want to make today. The point today is philosophical. I want to do some philosophy while trying to get this work done. And the topic I want to expound on is encapsulated in the phrase, don't let the ideal be the enemy of the good. Let the ideal be the guide of the good, the guide of the realizable. And what do I mean by this? I mean that in any given situation, there is an interplay of factors that delimits the horizon of possibilities, that delineates what is within our reach, what is possible, what can be done in the here and now, what can be done under those prevailing conditions. And in those conditions, of course, you won't have the ideal. You will have the realizable. You will have the possible. You will have the applicable. 1 second, folks, because I moved this around and this should be somewhere there, not to get in my way, and this should be here so that I have. Yeah, of course, when you are doing carpentry, normally you have your equipment and you have your workshop and you do everything properly, but I am just an amateur and I am doing this out of necessity. rather than as a job. So of course I will do it with what I have. There is then the prevailing conditions. There is a specific case, and this case has a specific interplay of factors which together contribute to the state of affairs that you are dealing with. All these factors in their interplay produce that state of affairs. And if there are different factors or a different interplay of the factors, you will have other states of affairs to deal with. The point is, though, that whatever the specifics, those will not be the ideal. The ideal is always abstract. The ideal is always something that you formulate by withdrawing, by taking a step back away from the particularities and thinking things in their essential form. This is the idea. Of course, when you are thinking about the ideal, you are not considering all the details. But the details matter greatly because the details will determine what is and what isn't possible. Let's be concrete. Let me be specific. In general, it is possible to have the finest piece of furniture. Okay, in general, you can have like a bar made out of marble, I don't know, and there will be a fountain on the side, and there will be, I don't know, angels singing in the background, something like that. Okay, but in practice, the best I can get is this. The best I can get is something that I will put together myself, and it will be a makeshift construction, but it will nevertheless serve me well. It will be something that I can use and survive until I can see what I do with furniture. Okay? So there are the prevailing conditions. The prevailing conditions of my life right here, right now, where I have a choice between this makeshift construction or nothing at all. And what do I choose in this situation? Do I cling on to my ideal and say, you know what, if I don't have that marble bar with the fountain and the angels, I don't want anything. So do I cling on to that ideal? Am I an absolutist in this regard? Or am I willing to compromise on my ideal? Am I willing to recognize that the prevailing conditions render the ideal immaterial, it render it impossible? And by this recognition, I will now proceed to a different way of thinking where I will say, okay, what is possible right now? What can I have right now? And then among the possibilities, which one is the one I prefer the most? Which one is the one I can realize? By having this attitude of accepting the prevailing conditions and of working towards the realizable instead of the ideal, you will end up having stuff, because you will never have to make a choice between something versus nothing. You will be preferring something because you will be recognizing that our life is a series of actions. A series of actions, each of which unfolds in imperfect circumstances. Each of which happens against the backdrop of incomplete knowledge, of incomplete information that is available to us. And each action happens by necessity. The necessity of life, the fact that we cannot withdraw in a world of abstractions, in a world where the details do not matter. We can entertain concepts. We can think of things in abstract, but we cannot live in abstract. Living involves details. It involves all the specifics of life. And in all those specifics, there are factors outside of our volition, outside of our thinking, outside of our conceptualizing, that compel us into action. For example, the fact that you have to eat, okay? This is something that you have to do whether you like it or not. It's a fact of your nature as a human being, and perhaps of your nature as a being in general. I don't know if there are beings who don't need some kind of energy, but the ones I know need. But anyway, let's say in your nature as a human being, this is what you have to do. And there are all sorts of factors outside our control that condition, frame, inform, or otherwise determine our actions, our environment, the actions of other people, our upbringing, the prevailing conditions in the economy. You name it, whatever it is, there is always something out there, some factor out there, some set of factors which produces states of affairs. States of affairs that we just have to deal with, we just have to accept. And there is no other way about it. I'm trying to drive this screw in, and it's a longer screw. I don't have power tools, and it's also, the wood is quite sturdy, which is great, but which makes this very hard. But I am getting there, folks. So we are always acting in imperfect circumstances, and we will always get what is rendered possible within those circumstances. You can never have that which is outside the realm of the possible, the ever expanding, the ever shifting, the dynamic realm of the possible. Okay? You will always have what is possible. There is that. And I am driving this in. Making then the choice between something which is better than nothing will give you things, but it will, more specifically, help you not be a nihilist. What is a nihilist? A nihilist is someone who depreciates things, who doesn't see the value in stuff, and who says, you know what, this is nothing. This is zero, from where we get the nihilism concept, the word. This is zero. And if you are an idealist, and if you are perfectionistic in your outlook because of your idealism, it is very easy for you to end up becoming, contrary to your plans, becoming a nihilist. Because you will say, you know what, I will only have the best. I only need the ideal. I won't compromise on that. And if you get something that is not the best, you will say, this is nothing. This is not worth it, and I will not have it. And if you are an idealist in every facet of your life, you will simply have to stop living, because nothing in life is ideal. Nothing. And that's why we call them ideals, because the ideal is only conceivable in the realm of abstractions. In the real world, we have only instantiations of ideals. For example, think about the ideal beauty. Of course, good luck defining it, because that's another problem, because how can you define that which is not within your realm? You can only approximate it. But okay, let's see. The ideal beauty. Think about the ideal beauty. And then go around and observe. Observe all the flowers. Observe all the landscapes. Observe all the works of art. Observe all people and all animals. And tell me, is any of them ideal beauty? Does any of them have ideal beauty, or are all of them, in their own way, different instantiations of beauty, differences in degree, differences that are, of course, not absolute? You can think of all the concepts. You can think of every ideal you want. And you will always see that the ideal doesn't actually exist in our world. The ideal is something that we can only arrive at by abstracting away from the world. It is something that we can only formulate in vitro. We can only formulate conceptually, because we can abstract away from the specifics, and we can say, you know what, for our purposes, this is not relevant, and I am just coming up with the concept, and that is the ideal. But of course, this is not how we live. We cannot live in that realm, so knowing the ideal itself doesn't do anything for us. The ideal is useful for us to approximate it, to use what we have to move in the direction of the ideal. And this is what I am doing right now, for example. I have the ideal of a bar, let's say, okay? What is the ideal bar? It is one that will serve me well, but will also impress, I don't know, the people that I show the bar to, and I don't know what. But you can come up with some definition of an ideal bar. And then you will say, okay, but I am living now. The ideal bar, I might get it in 10 years, in 20 years, or never. In the meantime, I must do something. I must have furniture in the hut. And of course, then, I can no longer entertain that idea of waiting for the ideal to happen, because I don't have the luxury of infinite time. My time is limited, and my everyday life will be an annoyance if I need to have furniture and I don't, because I am waiting for the ideal to be made manifest, or for me to make it happen anyway. So I don't want to do that. That's not a life that I can live. And by being a nihilist, by virtue of being an idealist, I will suffer. So of course I say, don't do that. Don't do that. You have a choice to make, and this choice is for you to be a bit more practical, for you to pick something that, yes, it is not an ideal, but it is good enough. So there is that. I will continue, but 1 second here. So I have screwed those in, and I will do it below as well, but let me do it for the other one first, and then I can continue. Another side of looking at this problematic, at this question over here, is one of situationality. As I said, there are factors whose interplay contributes to states of affairs. And these factors, of course, will create a specific situation, okay? And in this situation, there is something that is possible and something that is not possible. When we make assessments about our individuality, our selfhood, we want to couch them in terms of this situationality. And let me be concrete. In general, the best person for this sort of task is a carpenter. And of course, among the carpenters, there exists a carpenter who is the master carpenter, the best carpenter ever, and this is the best person for this task. In general. But in this situation where I am here, I cannot afford the master carpenter. As simple as that. Either because I don't know the person or because I don't have the money to pay that person anyway. So in this specific situation, I am the best available. Am I good enough? Does this mean that I am on the same level as the master carpenter? The answer is no, of course not. I am not at that level. But this comparison is also not relevant, because for this comparison to be relevant, both possibilities must also be feasible. So I must be making a choice between two likely outcomes. Otherwise, why am I making the comparison? If there is one outcome that is possible, that is me being here and me as an amateur trying to have some furniture for my hut, if this is the one outcome, and the other outcome is for some imaginary master carpenter to come here and do the work for me at a rate that I can afford, the other one is not feasible. This doesn't exist. So because this doesn't exist, me making a comparison along those lines is idle work. It is an exercise that is theoretical, but which otherwise serves no ulterior purpose. You cannot do anything with that. It will just create negativity. You will just be belittling yourself, saying that, you know what, I am not good enough, and in fact, I am a fraud. I am a fraud for being here, for doing this. And in my specific case, I am a fraud for doing a video, showcasing carpentry while not being a carpenter. And we could even take it a step further. I am a fraud for doing philosophy even though I am not the best philosopher. Whatever best philosopher means, but that's beside the point. And I can go on like this, But what does that serve? It serves nothing. Because it doesn't matter. Let's use the example of the best philosopher. And let's say that, let's give a name. I'm not trying to make a point with that. But let's say that Aristoteles is the best philosopher. Okay? Does it matter that I am not Aristoteles? And I think it matters not. Because I still feel the need to do philosophy. The fact that I am not as good as Aristoteles does not sate this need. I still have to do it. Furthermore, if you are interested in talking to someone about philosophy, you won't find Aristoteles around. He is dead. So even though he is the best in general, he is not around. So he is not relevant for what we want to do. If you want to have a face-to-face exchange with a philosopher, you won't find Aristoteles. What can we do? You will find me, and I am the best you can get, assuming I am the best you can get, and that's good enough. This is the idea. Same principle. I am the best carpenter I can get here in this specific situation, and so I am happy about having that option. Let's see, I want to, yeah, good. Local time, by the way, must be 10 o'clock, something like that. I am at the hut. I don't have electricity here, folks. This is unfortunate. I have closed the shelter almost a month ago. I closed it. But I still don't have electricity, and this is a very awkward situation. It has made things very difficult for me. Also for my work with coaching, but also for maintaining my Emacs packages. But I hope I have done most of the work, and I hope by next week to be up and running. Once I have electricity, I will go get the internet, and then everything will be fine. Let's see what we have. So in this situationality that I am talking about, we have to make an assessment that is relevant to it. We don't want to make comparisons that are not pertinent, that are not applicable. I used to be an idealist, and I used to be a perfectionist as well. 1 second, please. Let's move this a bit further, because the ground is not straight there, and I need it to be a bit more stable. Okay, so I used to be an idealist, and I used to be a perfectionist in that regard. And I used to be of the mindset that either you have the best or you have nothing. And this was a harmful way of conducting myself, because it meant that I didn't get stuff that would otherwise be enriching my life. I didn't get it because I thought it wouldn't be good enough. And I thought that having nothing, like being a nihilist, is fine, given that you don't have the best. But I realized that this was severely limiting my experiences in life, and years would go by, and I would be like, well, the ideal isn't coming soon, isn't it? So what am I doing here? That's the one thing. So there was this practical consideration, but there was also self-critique I made, and I realized that not only it was bad for my life, but it was also wrong. It was wrong as an analysis. It was wrong because of what I call the scope of application. The scope of application is a concept I use to help me distinguish cases, to help me disambiguate states of affairs. As I said, there are factors which contribute to a given outcome when these factors are in their interplay. But what we consider as a relevant factor is up to us. And this is how we can arrive at abstractions and increasingly more abstract concepts, and go from the abstract to the more particular, and then back to the abstract. But the scope of application allows us to say, you know what, the scope of application of this one is more abstract than the scope of application of the other one. So when we are making comparisons, we want to be operating at the same level of abstraction. We want to have a consistent scope of application. Otherwise, we are conflating scopes of application. We are conflating the abstract with the particular. And that, of course, is a mistake, because the abstract and the particular do not exist in the same realm of reality. And once I realized this, I was like, okay, what I was doing is silly. What I was doing is bad for me. It was bad for me. It was limiting my experiences in life. It was making me a nihilist, and it was creating negativity in my life. And this negativity was itself accumulating and then culminating into something really bad. But it was also wrong. So I stopped being an idealist. I stopped being a perfectionist. And I learned to work with what I have. And work with what I have metaphorically, but also literally. Like here, I am working with the materials I have. And I am using this instead of a power tool, which I don't have, and I don't have electricity anyway. And I am using this, and you can see how difficult it is to screw through, to drive in 2 screws. You can see how difficult it is. And I am here doing this, and it's not something that I would have liked. It's like if I had all the options available, this isn't the one I would have picked. But it's what I can do right now. And I'm like, you know what? Fine. This is what I will do. And I won't give up. And I won't complain. And I will do it, and it will be good enough given the prevailing conditions, good enough given this situation that I find myself in. And this is the idea. And so now I am not negative at all. Right now I have zero pent up grief about this, you know. I am doing it, and probably it will take me more time, as you can see how much time I am spending on this. It will take me a lot of time to put this together, but at the end of the day I will have a bar, you know. I will have the furniture that I need to make my life a little bit more comfortable, a little bit easier. So there is that. Let me see, folks. So probably I will conclude the video here because I am making too slow progress, and I don't know how long I have been recording, so I don't want to annoy you too much. But anyway, let me wrap this up and tell you what I have been doing. So I have been screwing those planks in place to have this leg be sturdy. Okay, so eventually I will also screw a couple of I will drive in a couple of screws here at the lower part, same for this one. And once I have those two, I will take this plank and place it as the top of the bar, and then the other one horizontally here to have stability and to have something nice. Maybe if I finish this today, maybe I will just quickly record another video to show you and then append it to this one, but I don't know. That's beside the point. Maybe I will need the different screws. Maybe I will use nails instead of screws. We will see. We will see. But it doesn't really matter. I really thought I would just talk a bit about philosophy, tell a few, expound on a few ideas, and then see how it goes from there. But I will continue here at my own pace. That's all for today, folks. Thank you very much for your attention. Goodbye and take care.